Chelsea have just picked up a massive 3 points in a game against Leicester as their hopes for UEFA Champions League continue as they move back into the top four. But that game was so confusing. There was good about Chelsea, but there was also bad about Chelsea. But it was a big chance to move back into top four, and they certainly did. Forest and Villa both won on the weekend, so Chelsea need to keep pace. But with City losing and Newcastle probably going to lose away to West Ham on Monday, this is a big 3 points for Chelsea. But I want to start by talking about Wesley Fofana, because it's great to see him back on the football pitch for Chelsea. Honestly, the injuries he's sustained, not many players would be able to come back the way he's come back. So it just goes to show his quality and his elite mentality. When I seen Wesley Fofana get picked at right back, I wasn't too concerned because I expected Chelsea to have more of the ball, so his time would be spent in a back three as a right centre back rather than right back. Let's talk about a few player personnel. So he selected Jadon Sancho to play on the right, Pedro Neto to play as a striker, which I expected, Christopher Nkunku on the left. But obviously, Christopher Nkunku had that license to tuck inside and roam inside. But this was a great opportunity for these players to really play themselves into a starting 11 role, and I'm not sure any of them did. Chelsea dominated the game, but I just felt it lacked a bit of innovation, urgency in the final third. It was really frustrating to watch because Chelsea had them literally control the whole game, but I felt like the ideas were correct, but the player profiles and execution were just not there. We all know what Leicester came to do. Leicester came to defend at times, and the majority of that game was spent with them playing with a back five. This system and these players are not designed to break down low blocks. The beginning of the season, Chelsea were a lot more cutthroat, a lot better when the game was opened up and they had more space to roam into. When I talk about these players, are not good against low blocks. Pedro Neto wants to run in behind when he's a striker, and Cole Palmer does his best work when he's ghosting into space. It's hard to do that when Leicester are compacting the pitch. So despite Chelsea absolutely dominating the first half, they lacked that creativity in the final third, and they weren't really creating any big chances. Obviously, they got rewarded with a penalty, and obviously if that penalty goes in, it's a different game. Players would be more relaxed and they could just play the natural game. But this performance, it's hard to put my finger on it because it wasn't as bad as it looks. They kept the ball, they were dominating the game, they nullified Leicester's threats. And I'm the one that always says, if you keep doing the right things, the goal will eventually come, and it did in the second half. But one thing I will say about this Chelsea performance, it was quite boring. They needed to move the ball quicker. They were passive and ineffective in possession. It looks like Maresca's took all the directness out and wants more control. That was everything good about Chelsea at the beginning of the season, when they had the ability to transition quickly, be more direct, be more efficient, be more effective in possession, play forwards a lot more. It looks like they're playing a lot more side to side, and it looks like he wants the players to slow the game down so players can get into positions. That's something Mikel Arteta does with Arsenal, Pep Guardiola does with Manchester City. I don't think Chelsea need to do that because they haven't got the player profiles to do it. And I'm going to give an example. Martin Odegaard. Mikel Arteta has instructed him to slow the game down, and he does this in order for players to get in the correct positions before they start their attack. This is annoying the hell out of Arsenal fans. They think he's being lackluster on the ball, but it's a tactic used by Mikel Arteta. I don't think Chelsea need to play that style because Chelsea don't have that tactical nous, that intelligence in their footballers. They're much better when they're working on instincts. And this is why I want to see a little bit more fluidity in the final third. Can the front three interchange a little bit more? Have Jadon Sancho acting as a false nine and Pedro Neto moving out on the wing. Just being a bit more unpredictable, less one-dimensional in attack would have caused Leicester more problems. But despite that, I thought Enzo Fernandez and Jadon Sancho were linking up really well. I thought Jadon Sancho did okay on the right wing, but he just lacks that pace to manoeuvre on the outside and really hold and use the width. But Chelsea still lacked that quality, that energy in the final third. And I'm not just blaming these two. It was from everybody. Cole Palmer was off it today. Christopher Nkunku was almost invisible. Pedro Neto couldn't really get going. So it looked like Chelsea were just really struggling to break down that low block. And in games like this, you need a player to step up in a big moment. That's exactly what Marc Cucurella done. An exceptional low drive strike into the bottom corner. And I really don't know why and how Leicester afforded him that much time, but full credit to him because he took advantage of it. And it just felt like today the only way Chelsea were going to score was for a goal outside the box because it was so passive and struggling to break down that low block of Leicester. And Chelsea go 1-0 up. That could be a huge moment, a huge golden race for European football. But there was another incident when Pedro Neto got brought down in the penalty area. For me, it's not a penalty. If you watch, right, the direction of the ball changes. It means that Leicester player got a touch on the ball before Pedro Neto. But I also think Pedro Neto instigated it a little bit. And if that had happened against Chelsea, I'd be so annoyed if that was given as a penalty. So just because it's the opposite way around, it's still not a penalty in my opinion. But I can't quite put my finger on this Chelsea performance. Dominated the game from start to finish. The ideas were there, but they just lacked that energy, creativity, and execution in the final third. I kind of feel like if they were playing anybody else today, somebody like Nottingham Forest or Bournemouth or somebody up there in the top 10 in reality, Chelsea don't win that game. But going back to the players individually, I thought Moses Caicedo controlled the midfield extremely well. Even though he didn't have much to do, he was breaking up all the Leicester's attacks when they were looking to break on the counter-attack, and he kept the ball ticking along nicely. And I also want to give Wesley Fofana some credit today. I thought he was solid considering he hasn't played much football. He's just come back from an injury despite having multiple injuries previous to that, and he was playing out of position. I thought he was solid today, but there is one boy we need to mention, and that is Cole Palmer. He hasn't been at his best for a while now. He obviously missed a penalty today, but we all know the quality of this guy. I think Nicholas Jackson's being injured has really impacted his game. Jackson's movement and link-up play created space for Cole Palmer. One of Cole Palmer's best attributes is arriving into space at the right time. He hasn't got that space anymore to do it because nobody's creating it for him. One thing I will say about Cole Palmer, his time will come. You can tell at the minute he's lost his confidence slightly overthinking things, overdoing things, and he's not letting everything flow as natural as what it was last season. But this is just a moment in time. Form is temporary, class is permanent. Remember that. I'm still backing you, Cole Palmer, because you are absolutely sensational. And I really don't think he understands how good he actually is. But say what you like, Noni Madueke's pace, directness, and unpredictability is a big miss for Chelsea Football Club. Look, this game wasn't exciting, it wasn't pretty, but 3 points is all that matters. You won't remember the performance if you qualify for Champions League football. Like I've just mentioned, the 3 points is all that matters this late in the season. You just need those wins, keep on coming. Even if you have to win ugly, you win ugly. Even though it wasn't an ugly performance, it just didn't have that execution that Chelsea normally have. Well, Chelsea at the beginning of the season. But I want to hear your thoughts. Drop us a comment in the below. Let me know what you thought of that game. 3 points, is that all that matters? Let us know in the comments below. But until next time, up the Chelsea.